I told you, lots coming up. But first, we're going to start with a review of the papers today. Okay, we start in Pakistan today with the front page of the Daily Times. It's highlighting some diplomatic engagement with Iran. Pakistan steps up peace diplomacy as CDF Munir meets Iran's top negotiator. So the Chief of Defense Forces and Chief of Army Staff Field Marshal Assam Munir is meeting with Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf in Tehran. So the meeting comes as Pakistan is working to promote regional peace and stability. The newspaper reports that Munir and Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi travelled to Tehran, while Iranian media described the visit as part of Pakistan's efforts to help restore stability in the region. To the Financial Times, Trump pledges to bump Canadian car tariffs to 50% after trade talks collapse. So the FT leads with another escalation in the trade dispute between the United States and Canada. President Donald Trump says he will increase tariffs on Canadian cars and car parts to 50% after negotiations between the two countries collapsed. Well, the newspaper says that the talks broke down after disagreements over Canada's trade policies and its relationship with other countries. Trump also criticised Canada publicly, while Ottawa says it is prepared to respond. Well, the stakes particularly high for the North American automobile industry because vehicles and components frequently used or that cross from the US-Canada border during the manufacturing process will be affected by these tariffs if they go ahead. And the Financial Times notes that major manufacturers, including Ford and GM, have invested heavily in integrated supply chains across North America. Okay, to India. The Hindustan Times leads with a sharp warning from Washington to countries that continue doing business with Iran, with the headline, US puts Iran trade partners on notice. So US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has announced a new round of sanctions and says countries and companies helping Iran move money could face consequences from the United States. The warning comes after President Donald Trump pledged what he called an economic D-Day against Tehran, as his administration looks for ways to increase pressure on the Iranian economy. The newspaper says that China, Turkey and the United Arab Emirates are among Iran's biggest trading partners, making the threat of secondary sanctions particularly significant. To China next. Xi reiterates Mideast peace stance. So China Daily leads with President Xi Jinping reaffirming China's position on achieving political settlement to the Middle East conflict. During talks with Jordan's King Abdullah in Beijing, Xi called for renewed efforts towards a two-state solution and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. The newspaper says that China supports a comprehensive ceasefire, an end to hostilities, and the resolution of disputes through political and diplomatic means. Xi also apparently stressed during the meeting the importance of protecting civilians and ensuring humanitarian assistance. Let's go to Bangladesh. The front page of the Dhaka Tribune, repatriation deadlock pushes Dhaka to rethink Rohingya policy. So the Dhaka Tribune looks at the increasingly difficult situation facing Bangladesh over the Rohingya refugee crisis. 9 years after the mass exodus from Myanmar, hopes of returning home have faded as repatriation remains stalled and violence continues in Myanmar's Rakhine state. And the newspaper says that more than 1.2 million Rohingyas are now living in 32 camps in Ukhiya and Teknaf. The population is still growing, with more than 154,000 new arrivals registered alone between December 2024 and July of this year. Next up, the Australian. Cry for a real path to grow prosperity. So the Australian turns to the country's economic outlook, with business leaders calling for a clearer path to stronger growth and higher productivity. The newspaper highlights comments from Business Council of Australia Chief Executive Bran Black, who argues that Australia cannot simply tax, regulate or redistribute its way to higher living standards. His message is that the economy needs stronger growth and greater productivity. The discussion comes as businesses are concerned about weak productivity, regulation and the broader economic environment. Black is also warning about the growing cost of regulation and arguing for reforms that can make it easier to invest, or for businesses to invest and expand. Right. Lastly, on our roundup of the papers today, we'll go to the UK, front page of The Guardian. Burnham accuses Kremlin of outrageous threats to Britain. So The Guardian focused on Prime Minister Andy Burnham's warning that Russia is making what he describes as outrageous threats against Britain. Burnham made the comments during his first official overseas visit as Prime Minister, travelling to the Ukraine on its Independence Day. The newspaper says that Britain is continuing to support Ukraine despite warnings from Moscow. During the visit, Burnham also announced that Britain would provide Ukraine with previously classified information to help with the production of long-range cruise missiles. So the plan involves sharing information with Ukraine and from the British defence industries, while Britain also intends to share battlefield data and work with private companies on AI models.